The city of Jerusalem shimmered beneath the warm sunlight as pilgrims from distant regions filled its streets. The air carried the scent of bread, spices, and dust stirred by countless sandals. Passover was approaching, the time when families gathered, traditions revived, and every heart remembered the journey from bondage to freedom. Yet beneath the celebrations there was tension, like a quiet storm hiding behind blue skies. Rumors had spread about a teacher, a healer, a man who spoke about a kingdom not made of stone and armies but of hearts and faith. Some whispered his name with hope. Some spoke it with fear. Some with anger. That name was Jesus of Nazareth. As people walked toward the city gates, a gentle commotion began to rise. Children's voices carried through the air and men turned their heads to look. Coming down the hill, riding a young donkey, was Jesus. His face was calm, serene, filled with a deep compassion that drew people near even before he spoke. He didn't appear like a revolutionary or political leader. He wasn't surrounded by soldiers or banners. He rode humbly, as though he wished to arrive without disturbing the peace, yet knowing that his purpose would shake the world. Crowds rushed forward. Some ran into their homes and returned with palm branches. Others removed their cloaks and laid them on the ground. Jerusalem, a city heavy with worry and conflict, suddenly felt alive with anticipation. Joy rose like a tide as people cried out, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Their voices echoed between stone walls, rising into the sky like a song of hope. For a moment all differences vanished. Poor or rich, young or old, Roman or Jew, every eye fixed upon him. Jesus looked across the sea of faces. His heart swelled with love, but sorrow lingered behind his gentle smile. He knew that the same voices praising him today would be silent soon. He knew the city celebrating him would eventually turn away. Yet he did not come for admiration. He came with purpose. As he rode deeper into Jerusalem, the cheers grew louder, but within him the quiet weight of destiny pressed more heavily. Even in celebration, he felt the shadow of what was to come. When he entered the temple, his steps slowed. The temple was sacred, a place meant for prayer, reflection, and communion with God. But what he saw grieved him. The courtyard buzzed like a marketplace. Merchants shouted prices. Animals cried out. Coins clattered. The poor were charged unfairly. Worship had been replaced with business. Jesus' heart ached not with anger alone, but with deep sorrow. With quiet authority, he overturned the tables of those who cheated others. Coins scattered across the stone floor. Animals fled. Merchants stared in shock. But Jesus' voice remained steady. "My Father's house shall be a house of prayer." Children approached him with innocent trust. The blind reached for him. The lame struggled toward him. And he healed them not with spectacle but with compassion. People watched in awe. The temple felt alive again, filled not with commerce but with hope. Human brokenness met divine mercy and hearts softened. But nearby, the religious leaders murmured among themselves. Their eyes narrowed. Their worry grew. If the people continued to follow him, their authority would crumble. Their fear slowly turned to hostility. As day turned to evening, Jesus left the city with his disciples. They walked the dusty road, quiet yet full of questions. While the world celebrated, Jesus knew a clock had begun ticking. The final week had begun, and nothing would be the same again. The next day, crowds again gathered to hear him speak. On a hillside overlooking the temple, Jesus taught for hours. His words were simple yet profound, cutting through confusion like light through fog. He spoke of love, love stronger than hate, love that forgives, love that serves. He spoke of humility, teaching that true greatness was found not in power but in compassion. He told stories about lost sheep found, prodigal children embraced, and seeds of faith growing in unexpected places. People listened, captivated, challenged, comforted. Religious leaders attempted to trap him with clever questions. Should we pay taxes to Caesar? What is the greatest commandment? By what authority do you speak? But every word from his mouth dismantled their traps. He answered with wisdom that cut to the heart, leaving many amazed and others humiliated. Some leaders felt their pride wounded. Others felt something unfamiliar stirring inside them, truth. By sunset, Jesus grew quiet. He stared at the temple, silhouetted against the golden sky. "Not one stone will be left upon another," he whispered to his disciples, hinting at a future they did not yet understand. They looked at him with confusion, but he simply placed his hand on their shoulders as if to say, "In time you will know." The following day was still. No large gatherings, no confrontations, no miracles. Jesus spent the day with his disciples in a quiet home, preparing in silence. Mary of Bethany entered the room holding an alabaster jar of perfume, precious and expensive. She knelt at his feet and poured the perfume gently over them. The fragrance filled the house, drifting through dim candlelight. Some disciples murmured, questioning the cost. But Jesus spoke gently, "She has done a beautiful thing. She has prepared me for what is coming." His words hung heavy, like clouds before a storm. None fully understood, but Mary's eyes glistened with knowing sadness. That evening, Judas slipped away into the darkness. The pressure of expectations, confusion, and temptation clouded his heart. Something inside him broke. He met with the leaders who sought Jesus' downfall. Silver coins clinked into his hands. As he closed his fingers around them, the night seemed colder. The next evening became one of the most meaningful moments in history. The disciples gathered for Passover in a simple upper room. They sat around a low wooden table, the warm glow of oil lamps flickering across their faces. Jesus looked at each of them, fishermen, tax collectors, ordinary men who had become brothers. His eyes held pride, love, and quiet sorrow. Before the meal he stood, took a basin of water, and knelt before them. One by one he washed their feet. Shock filled their faces. Their teacher, the one they believed was the Messiah, was kneeling like a servant. "Lord," Peter whispered, "you will never wash my feet." But Jesus looked into his eyes and replied, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." Peter relented, tears forming in his eyes. As Jesus washed each pair of feet, he wasn't just cleaning dust, he was teaching them the deepest lesson of love. When they finished eating, Jesus took bread, broke it, and said, "This is my body given for you." He lifted a cup. "This is my blood of the new covenant." The disciples looked at him with confusion mixed with fear. They sensed something sacred happening but couldn't grasp the depth of it. Then Jesus said quietly, "One of you will betray me." The room fell silent. Forks froze, hearts pounded. Each man asked, "Lord, is it I?" Jesus didn't accuse anyone publicly. He simply handed a piece of bread to Judas with a look that held sadness, not anger. Judas stood, his face pale, and hurried out. The door closed behind him with a soft thud that sounded like the beginning of tragedy. After supper, Jesus spoke words that would echo through time. "Do not let your hearts be troubled." He promised peace, guidance, a future home. He prayed for his disciples with a love deeper than human language could express. Then they left for the Mount of Olives, where olive trees swayed under the moonlight. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus asked Peter, James, and John to stay awake with him. His voice trembled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow." He walked a few steps away, knelt on the ground, and prayed in anguish. "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not my will but yours." His sweat fell like drops of blood. The weight of the world pressed upon him, not the fear of physical pain but the burden of humanity's brokenness, the separation he would face, the sacrifice he would become. When he returned to his disciples, they were asleep, not out of carelessness but from exhaustion and sorrow they didn't yet understand. Suddenly, distant torches approached. Judas emerged from the shadows leading armed men. His face revealed regret, conflict, and despair. He approached Jesus and kissed him, a signal for the guards. Jesus looked at him with sorrow deeper than betrayal. "Judas, do you betray me with a kiss?" There was no hatred in his voice, only heartache. The guards seized Jesus. The disciples panicked and fled into the night. Peter followed from a distance, torn between fear and loyalty. Jesus was taken to the high priest's house, where false witnesses accused him. He remained silent. Even as they mocked him, his eyes held compassion, not anger. At dawn, Jesus was brought before Pilate. The Roman governor questioned him, confused by the accusations. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered calmly, "My kingdom is not of this world." Pilate found no guilt in him, yet pressure from the crowds and religious leaders pushed him into a corner. He washed his hands and said, "I am innocent of this man's blood." Jesus watched without resentment, understanding the fear that guided Pilate's choice. The day grew heavier as Jesus was led away. People lined the streets, some weeping, others confused, some indifferent. Even in his suffering, he looked at them with mercy. When he reached the hill outside the city, the sky dimmed as clouds rolled in. But Jesus' heart remained steady. He spoke forgiveness for those who harmed him. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." 2 others were beside him. One mocked him. The other whispered, "Remember me?" Jesus replied, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Even in agony, he offered hope. As hours passed, darkness covered the land, the earth trembled, the temple curtain tore in two. A Roman soldier standing nearby whispered, "Surely this man was innocent." That evening the world felt broken. His disciples hid in fear, replaying memories of his teachings, his miracles, his love. They felt lost, unsure, shattered. A silence settled over Jerusalem, a heavy stillness that felt like grief itself. But heaven was not finished. At dawn on the 3rd day, women approached the tomb with spices. They expected death. Instead, they found life. The stone was moved. The tomb was empty. Fear gripped them until a voice said, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen." Hope exploded inside them. They ran, trembling with joy. Jesus appeared to his disciples, alive, radiant, transformed. Their fear melted into laughter and tears as he said, "Peace be with you." The world had changed. Death had been defeated. Love had conquered all. And the final week of Jesus, filled with triumph, tears, sacrifice, and victory, became the greatest story of hope ever told.